Good afternoon, everyone. How are y'all doing as we're getting ready for the 2015 Sports Shuffle NFL Productions show? Joel Verlin, Tampa Motor Mouth here, along with...
Flying Ryan Gilchrist here with you.
And...
And Mr. Patrick Grana.
Alright, guys, so we're going to start off with the East, and we have I'm going to rattle mine off, then we'll go over to Flying. As just have the Buffalo Bills. I just tend to think I really have a lot of stock with Rex Ryan and the team he's put together. Then we've got Ryan's Dolphins next coming in. Bills are 12-4, Dolphins 10-6. The Patriots and all their chicanery, that'll be 9-7, and the Jets finishing up the bottom at 7-9.
Well, I have to say you're completely insane to not think the Patriots are going to be a 10-win team, as much as everybody in the nation who's not a Patriots fan hates them. I've got them winning the division at 11-5. Same record as Miami, but just due to tiebreaker, they would win the division. Miami also 11-5. I don't have any confidence in Rex Ryan. He never won a division with the Jets. He did get the AFC Championship on the back of players from a different coach. I have the Bills at 7-9. I don't buy the hype. And the Jets, 5-11. They're just a complete dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, so far as my predictions, I see New England going 5-1 in their division and ending up with a total of 13-3. I just feel like Tom Brady's got some anger built up against the NFL, and he's looking to make it this season. And then next to that, I have Miami going in at 11-5. Going 4-2 in the division, making the wild card. Right after them, I have Buffalo going 9-7. I just think for Rex Ryan to go and come into a new scene and come in with a good running back with LaShawn McCoy, I mean, I just feel like they need to go above 500, but probably no more than 9-7. So 3-3 in the division, and with the Jets. Yeah, they're kind of going to end up with that dumpster fire scenario and stop at 4-12, getting swept within their division, which is not a good sign.
Well, bringing up the Jets, I mean, it's a pity, as I think both of you have to agree with me. It was a shame that they were not on Hard Knocks this year, especially with what. So I just wanted, and we'll start with Patrick first, and then go to Ryan. With what was your whole reaction when you ended up just hearing about the whole IK thing, and then plus have a follow-up, because apparently there is a rather interesting follow-up thing to hold that with IK and Gino. So what was your first thought, Patrick, when all that went down?
I mean, obviously, with a new head coach coming in, he needs to go and establish a culture that fighting, I mean, people do fight, but to go and have a fight bad enough that it breaks your quarterback's jaw. Todd Bowles kind of just needs to hanker down, and he needs to go and show that it's his team. And I guess by cutting the guy, he did his thing. But hey, just need to limit that on your first year, because that's not a good way to start out.
Flying?
And you want my legitimate first thought? Is that correct?
Si, senor.
All right, here's my quote. First thought. As a Dolphins fan, I loved it. It's insane that your backup linebacker is going to just deck your starting quarterback right in the face, and he's going to be out for 2 months. As far as having a new coach, Todd Bowles is not someone I think is ready for a head coaching job. He was mediocre with his coordinator positions, especially with the Dolphins. And again, being a Dolphins fan, I've seen it firsthand. But you can't have your backup linebacker, who's now cutting on the Buffalo Bills, nonetheless, because you know he can get to Gino. You can't have him breaking the jaw of your starting quarterback. It's just not acceptable. But my first thought was to laugh hysterically because it's the Jets. That's their culture. Even now that Rex Ryan's gone, it's still their culture.
And then, of course, you had IK being picked up by the Bills.
Woo!
So, and then there was another story that I think I remember seeing off of Deadspin that apparently somehow IK ended up getting catfished. I don't know if you guys saw this.
I heard a little bit of that today, and just to quickly go through it, because I know I don't want to go too long. I guess when he was in college, and he went to a smaller university, he was meeting a girl who dressed in like a blanket type of thing the first time, talked in falsetto, and was essentially well, to cut a long story short, he found out the second time they hung out, this woman was a dude with a beard, and he Geno Smith him as well. Although I think there's a little bit more valid reason to deck a guy trying to pretend he's a chick when you're going out with him than to deck somebody over $600 when you both make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year.
And then, of course, also quickly before we move on to the division, because remember the whole Aaron Cromer story with the Bills that he ended up getting into the fight with the kids over the beach chairs that basically led him to being suspended for a couple of games. All sorts of crazy stuff in that division.
And it's from the two bottom teams, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as Patrick's concerned, it sounds like. So.
Yeah. It's just I mean, there's no sense in talking about it. I mean, they're not going to factor even if these guys went and acted in a professional setting. Just non-factors. I mean, Buffalo. I mean, 9-7, but that's about it.
So whether or not they happen to have one of their coaches there is really going to be irrelevant, according to you.
Right.
All right, so we have any other AFC thoughts, or do we want to pick on the Jets another time, or do we want to move down to the South?
No, I think that's a good wrap on the AFC East. If we go into the AFC South, I have a funny feeling we're all going to agree, at least at the top of this division.
That's yes. Right, and since I think we started with Flying last time, how about we start with Patrick this time, if I remember correctly?
This time around, I have the 3 seed for the playoffs, Indianapolis, sitting at 12-4. Andrew Luck is superhuman. Doesn't matter who he's passing to, just as long as they can kind of catch. Hey, he's gonna carry this team to 12-4. I don't think the defense is there to go and make it any better than 12-4. But Houston is going to be coming in behind them, 9-7. Tennessee is going to be lagging back there with Jacksonville at 5-11, and Jacksonville rounding it out at 3-13. It's kind of a top-heavy division.
So, do you think so you don't think Marcus Mariota is going to matter one lick this year in the South?
Not in a Ken Wisenhunt offense.
So anything with the Colts and or just to think they're going to blow everybody away, or
so far, I mean, the Colts, I don't think that they have any blow-away potential because I have them exiting the playoffs in the first round. I just think that they're a playoff team in that division. That's just it.
And any hope for the hapless Houston Texans at all, or?
Oh, for the Houston Texans, Blake, I forgot his first name, but Hoyer is
Brian Hoyer.
It's what Brian Hoyer. Yeah, there we go. Brian Hoyer. Sorry,
you got the
Brian
first letter right.
With the inept roster that he played with back in Cleveland, and he actually won a handful of games over there. I think he can do something with Houston. At least go above 8-8 and hit 9-7. Still not making the playoffs in a tough AFC East, but that's that.
I think Houston's shot pretty much went out when Matt Schaub went bye-bye.
Not so much. I think they're going to relish in the opportunity that they get with Hoyer and do much better than they did with Mr. Matt Schaub.
All right, and Flying, what do you think about the South?
I think the Colts are going to run away. I think their division's so easy they're going to get 6 wins there. They're outside of the division. Their schedule's not too brutal. They play the AFC East, which is why I think they get their losses. They lose to New England and Miami, but I think they go 14-2. They're just not going to have a hard enough schedule to not get a ton of wins. When you are going to almost certainly sweep your division, is it that impossible to go 8-2 outside of it when you're a good team? The defense is not great, but Andrew Luck can single-handedly get that team 6 or 7 of those wins. Defense can show up 1 week and really pull them out. So I think they're going to go 14-2 just on the back of an easy schedule, and that gets them home field throughout the playoffs. I have the Houston Texans in second at 10-6, competing for a playoff spot. I've got them in, and I agree with Patrick that the Jaguars and Titans aren't going to be there. I think the Jaguars go 5-11, the Titans go 4-12. So I just had the records backwards for them. And as far as your question about Mariota, I think he's going to be very good for the Titans. I just think the rest of the team's not there. Kendall Wright's your number one receiver. That's the sign of a problem. When your defense is not very good, your starting running back's going to be Bishop Stanky, as I call him. He's not going to be very good. Not that I don't have him on a fantasy team because of 16 teams and you need him, but I expect him to ride the bench the whole time. But I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be better than Jameis Winston. He's going to be better than some of these other quarterbacks that have better records at the end of the year. Just the rest of the team around him is not going to step up, special teams defense specifically.
When you're in a 16-team league, that's when you get excited when you get Brandon LaFell, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And my South, I've got Colts, so I think we actually agree, because I think you said 14-2, so
yep.
Colts definitely is just, as both of you guys said, Andrew Luck, everyone else is out of luck in that division.
Yeah.
You got the Jaguars, I've got them in second place in 7-9, because they actually have some players on the team, which they're not Titans or world beaters, but on the other hand, I don't think they're that bad. And then you have the Titans, as was brought up, not great quarterback, but need to have other pieces there. And Texans, I tend to think they're the dumpster fire, and they're going to be fourth place. I have the Jaguars and Titans both at 7-9, and I have the Texans with only 3 wins.
The Texans are going to go the way Brian Hoyer goes. There's no doubt about it. Arian Foster's out for a while, so that's going to hurt. They did lose Andre Johnson, so it's going to be tough. Their defense, though, is arguably one of the top 3, definitely in the top 5. So that's going to keep them in a lot of games. And if Brian Hoyer can show up, they can be a 10-win team. If he doesn't, you're probably right about 3, 4, 5 wins. But that's the one team for sure that's a landmine. It's either going to be hit or miss. It's on the shoulders of Brian Hoyer.
Well, after last season, I'm sure both of you are like me. We're going, why can't you pick up J.J. Watt as a wide receiver or running back this year? It's like, how come he's not on the offense? Because that was crazy. All right, any further thoughts on the South before we go north, not to Alaska, but to the AFC?
No, it's looking like we hit it.
Yep, time to go north.
All right, and since I know we started with Patrick last time, Flying, you're up first this time.
I do have a fun fact for the AFC North, and I'm not sure if this is an NFL record or not, but the Cleveland Browns have a person suspended at every level of their organization, being GM, coach, and player for the first game of the season.
Because they just had a coach for aggravated assault and just went bye-bye, I think, right?
Yes, and I heard that, I believe, on the Dan Levitard show coming back from work today, first day in that time slot. But yeah, that was the stat of the day, was that they had a person suspended at every level of their organization as far as the management, coaching, and players. So that was a pretty impressive stat to me. For the North, though, I for whatever reason, I still believe the Bengals are the team from that division. They've been there for 5 straight years. I see your face.
Ready to get swept out of the first round of the playoffs again.
I have them going 11-5. I don't think Cleveland's going to be as good. I think that Pittsburgh defense is going to be soft, and I think Baltimore's going to have some injuries. I don't necessarily trust their running back situation. Steve Smith Sr.'s getting old. The receivers aren't as good as they used to be, and they were never an offensive juggernaut. I think their defense is still recovering from the loss of their big-name players. I have the Bengals at 11-5, the Ravens at 10-6, the Steelers at 8-8, and I'm kind of surprised the Browns with what I have at 7-9. They're one of those teams that if everything comes together, they could be in contention end of November into December. I don't think so, but yeah, I know it's a little crazy. I think the Bengals, though, are the team there, and they've been in the playoffs every year with Andy Dalton, and then they flop. So I expect the trend to continue. They're going to be one and done in the playoffs, but they're going to get in. I think they're going to win the division.
Patrick?
I mean, we've got a heavy disagreement here about who's going to be going AFC North. I firmly believe with that offense, with the number one running back and the number one receiver and a fantastic quarterback. Say what you will about Ben Roethlisberger, but I mean, I think the guy just gets it done, especially with the number one at each of those positions. I find it hard to believe that they don't go 12-4 and 5-1 in their division, with that one coming against Baltimore, and coming in next, I see Baltimore 11-5. I think those two teams always duke it out, and they lay waste to the rest of the division. I just can't see Cincinnati doing anything like how you said that they were going to do. I just don't think that they have the coaches for it. I don't think that they have the mindset for it. They're not killers. They're soft. I think they're like little cats instead of Bengals. So 5-11, 1-5 in their division, which is kind of rough, but I could see that happening. Cleveland, obviously, I don't know how I structured this, but there are only 2 wins come in division. I don't know how that happened, but 2-14. And they're most certainly the consensus number 1 overall pick for the next draft.
So you tend to think that the Bengals are going to be kitty cats?
Yes, I could very well see kitty cats out of them. I mean, on paper, they're a good team, but I mean, all I see is AJ Green and Hill. I don't think Dalton has it. And their defense is above average, but I mean, you need an offense to put points on the board.
Okay, so good time for a Sports Shuffle audible question. How does Marvin Lewis still have a job? Because they bring him back. Is it just a question? And either of you can answer this one. Is it just a question? The Bengals don't have any better candidates out there, or because it's like, or are they just satisfied with getting into the playoffs and then leaving quickly? And I'm just amazed that the owner doesn't set any more expectations down a couple of levels.
Well, with Marvin Lewis, he's in a unique situation that Cincinnati was really the laughing stock of the NFL before he took over, and he's gotten them into the playoffs consistently. Again, they've been there the last 3, 4, 5 years. 6 of the last 8, I believe. No results in the playoffs, but for Cincinnati, just getting in is a step in the right direction. And now you're starting to hear more people say, all right, you got to get a win. You got to get a win. You got to move in the playoffs. You got to advance in the playoffs. You got to get a higher seed, so at least you're in the next round of the playoffs. If you can't win the first game, get a bye into the next round. Something. So I think this year, if they miss the playoffs, he'll be gone. If they get in the playoffs and go one and done, there's a good chance he would be. As far as other candidates, there's always candidates. I mean, Mike Shanahan would probably get back into coaching with the right situation. And the Bengals do have talent on the team. They're not, overloaded like some other rosters, like the Eagles, and we'll get to them in a little bit, who loaded up this year. They are. They absolutely are loaded. I don't know if that's going to translate into wins and losses, because sometimes the most talented teams are the ones that flop the hardest, but I think it's a good situation if they do let go of Marvin Lewis to get a good coach. They're not going to have to go and get, a Jay Gruden who's never been a head coach, or a Todd Bowles who's never been a head coach. They can go get someone who's got some experience, and they'll be fine. But I think they're going to be good. I know I'm the only one of the three, because Joel, I know what your picks are. I'm going to let you go ahead and go through those now. But I'm the only one that thinks the Bengals are going to be even a 500 team.
Okay, and I'll run through mine before we can get to Patrick, and he'll respond to the question. Is Marvin Lewis one and done before he gets out if the Bengals do what they've done before? Just rolling through my picks real quick. Ravens 12-4. I think they take the division finally without any controversy this year, and they can actually concentrate on football and not TMZ releasing 40 million videos of their star running back every other 6 minutes. Then you have, of course, not to make light of that situation at all, but just looking at it from a football perspective. And then you have the Steelers in second place, 11-5, Cleveland Browns 10-6, and the Cincinnati Bengals at 6-10, as you said. And now we'll toss the question over to Patrick. One and done for Marvin. Is he done if that happens again this year?
If this were college football, he would have been let go a couple of seasons back. I mean, you can only settle for mediocrity uh, for so long. I mean, you can go and have Ryan's situation easily come about, given the athleticism and the production on the roster. But I just think that they're particularly weak at the quarterback position. Dalton needs to come out and have a career year, or he's done. Marvin Lewis is done, and they're looking to clean house.
And do we have any more thoughts on the North, or is it time to go to the other? Unless I'm missing something here, let me make sure I'm.
I think we got to go west.
Oh yeah, that's right. I believe as the Pet Shop Boys once had his song "Go West." So yes, we'll do that as a sorry, Peyton. We don't want to forget you. Football on the phone, cutting that meat, and all that good stuff. But any further thoughts? As a flash a neuralizer at everyone. I'm not sure how you can do that through a microphone, but race your memories for the last 30 seconds. So there we go. So any further thoughts on the North before we go west? And I'm not talking about Kim and Kanye's child either.
Oh, jeez. As far as Dalton is concerned, it's absolutely true that he's not progressed the same way as you see a Russell Wilson, a Ryan Tannehill, and Andrew Luck in his first few years. I don't know if he's got that career year in him to get them to truly be a Super Bowl contender. He's got the talent to keep them in games, win a few games, because he doesn't make these huge mistakes until the postseason. But if he doesn't step up, he's going to find himself out of a job quickly. And this might be the year he steps up. I think it's going to come down to just being healthy on defense. The defense is going to keep him in a lot of games. And he's just got to make the right decision and not lose them games more than anything.
All right, so West. Let's start with Patrick, since I think Ryan, you did it last, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So, Sir Patrick.
Okay, well, so far as my AFC West, I'm going to start it out with San Diego winning the division at 12-4. They go 5-1 in division. I just think that Phillip Rivers is one of those quarterbacks that could probably go and take his team up into the next echelon, given a downgrade in Denver and with mediocre play over in Kansas City. With Kansas City, though, I go and see 11-5 record. Don't see them making the playoffs. I just don't think that they have that in them. And given their quarterback situation, they're probably not going to make it much farther than 11-5. Denver at 11-5, 3-3 in their division, a step below Kansas City. I just don't think that Peyton Manning has it left in him, and I don't think that the other options that they have around him on that offense can go and make up for the slack that he's going to create. And then to round it out, we've got everybody's lovable bottom feeders in Oakland at 4-12, and they're getting swept within their division. Not fun.
All right, so you think is Peyton? Do you think Peyton hangs it up after this year?
Probably, yeah. I think he's at that age where it's a little too taxing on the body. Barring a perfect season where he doesn't get touched, I just think that he'll get hit one too many times, and it's not going to be a good end for him.
And flying along with your predictions for the West, do you think this is Peyton's swan song?
I do. I think that whole division's record-wise is going to be lower than what Patrick is saying. I've got the same order, and I've actually got Kansas City and Denver tied, which is odd enough. I've got San Diego winning the division at 10-6. I don't have a whole lot of confidence at division top to bottom. Kansas City last year had no touchdowns to wide receivers. Alex Smith's their starting quarterback. I've never been a big believer that he's going to be able to get it done. Phillip Rivers, I think at this point, is the best quarterback in the division because Peyton is well past his prime, and they've got more weapons right now and a better defense right now than Denver, but it's not going to be separated by much. I have Kansas City in second at 8-8, Denver at 8-8. And I think Oakland's going to take a step in the right direction. They're going to be 7-9, still last in the division. But I really like what they're doing with Carr. They got Amari Cooper this year as a good wide receiver. They've got a good nucleus being set up. They're still a couple years out at best from being a true playoff contender. But they could always be that team this year that says everything comes together. We're in contention the last week or two of the season. I could see it happening. I don't expect it. I'm not picking it. But if Oakland ended up being around a 10-win team, because maybe they do well against the Chiefs, the Broncos, who I think they're going to be down, steal one from the Chargers, maybe go 4-2, 5-1 in the division, they can probably pick up 4 or 5 wins. They might be around. I don't think so. But if the Raiders did have a good season, it wouldn't be out of the question. It wouldn't surprise me. But I do have them in 4th at 7-9.
Okay,
Much better than they've been doing, nonetheless.
All right. So, question 4, both of you, just a quick, less than 30-second response. Is Denver the only team that makes the playoffs in that division?
I don't have them in the playoffs at all. I don't even have them on the top half of the conference. I think it's just San Diego out of that division, just because I think their team's overall a little bit better.
Okay, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, so far as San Diego, I saw that their defense is probably a little probably going to underperform a little bit, but I just feel like their offense will probably get them past that mediocrity level. I mean, a good example, they're going to make an example of what Indianapolis could be with a little bit better on defense.
All right, and have everyone given their predictions for the West?
Yep, everybody but you.
Okay, so why are you all looking at me? Okay, so it's like, ugh. Yeah, but here we go with the West. I think that it's going to be his swan song. Definitely, I agree with when you find out how he was playing with the torn quad, and he did that well with the torn quad. But body can only take so many hits, and especially I'm sure you've both seen the trailer for a concussion.
Yeah.
I haven't, but I heard it was pretty heavy, and it's going to get on the NFL's bad side. But
well, because I remember, I don't know if you've heard the little bit that allegedly this movie studio had to change part of the movie not to piss the NFL off.
Oh, well, I guess already it's kind of making a name for itself. Definitely going to get a few viewers that way. I'll definitely go see it because Will Smith, the hometown boy. Go see that.
Never forget the time when Will Smith saved us from the aliens.
Right?
God bless him for that. That was a heroic act we should never forget. And on our Independence Day, nonetheless. How American.
And but yeah, because I mean, just you watch the trailer and getting back to serious with all that, and that the NFL sort of tends to push it under the rug, especially with like I know we haven't gotten to the Redskins, so we'll sort of save all that for when we talk about in the division. But it's just a scary film because as much as we love the sport, it really tends to remind you how much of a modern day gladiator games that football really tends to be. But I have not getting off the track too far, even though I think we were already flying off the track into the mountain. Broncos 10-6, Chargers 6-10, Kansas City Chiefs 4-12, and the Oakland Raiders, the dumpster fire of the division, in at 3-13. And do we have any final thoughts for the AFC? Even though I know we tried to prematurely end it before we moved to the NFC for real.
Nope. Good to go to the NFC.
Yeah, I think I'm about ready to hit that in the head with the shovel and bury it. So,
all right. As we have with the NFC, as we're getting to, and since this is definitely Patrick's division, although before we jump into, because especially with one of the teams that happened, as I'm sure both of you guys ended up getting the notification about one JPP, and there was even a Bucks player, for goodness sake, that ended up ending their career by shooting off fireworks. So we have to definitely talk about John Pierre Paul, and I think Ryan, I can tell by his expression that Patrick, hope you don't mind if I move you to the number 2 seed for this one. I can just tell flying just with my lead in there.
Good old JPP, the Tampa USF Bull, who now when he does this, has to do that. He cannot do his own bull thing anymore because he lost the finger. You have to think as an NFL player or an athlete in general who uses their hands, you let your friend set off the firework. Let him put himself at risk. He might have cost himself $15 million this year and the chance of a long-term contract. A lot of your strength in your hand for grabbing is through that finger. His job is to grab and tackle people who are 200-300 pounds. Get them out of the way. I think it's you lose 30% of your hand strength when you don't have this there. You try and squeeze with 3 as opposed to 4, you don't have as much force. So it could be a big thing actually physically on the field, and it could derail his career. And he was one of the best NFL linemen, defensive linemen, that there was, given he had taken a step back due to injuries the last couple of years, but nothing like this. If he is right, he may come back, but you're losing a lot of strength in a position and in a body part that you need a lot of strength in.
And Patrick, when you saw that, I can just imagine what was going through your mind.
It was like me with the Jets, wasn't it?
With mine, I was just like, come on, seriously? I mean, read the caution label. Like, come on. Playing with fireworks, when you're worth that much money, you need to go and make the shift from, like, high school football player to businessman. And a lot of kids in college don't make that shift. But, I mean, this is a clear testament to, like, when you get in the NFL, I mean, it's all business. You don't play around with fireworks like that. You don't take risks like that. You don't go and get caught with drugs in your system. Come on. Like, he's done. Because just like how Ryan said, your index finger is important when you're tackling. And I just feel like he's not mentally there. I don't think, given the injuries from before that, he's physically there. He's not there. And he's going to look to hold out now so that the Giants go and pay his franchise tag. No, the Giants are within the right to go and hold that from him. He's never – if he holds out anymore, he's not going to play again.
And as a follow-up question, reversing the order, Patrick first, then Ryan – do you think Adam Schefter ended up crossing any lines when he ended up tweeting out medical record information saying what happened to John Pierre-Paul? Everyone's such in a rush to get the scoop on social media when you tweet out a picture of somebody's medical records.
Possibly, but he didn't do it in ill faith. I mean, Adam Schefter's like probably one of the nicer guys in the business. And it just seems like it's something that, yeah, he screwed up, but he's certainly not going to be held at the fire for it. So he'll monitor what he does next time.
Flying?
As far as stepping over a line, tweeting a picture of the actual medical records might be a little far. However, if he said, I've obtained medical records, this is what happened, it would have been just as effective because people do respect and listen to what he says as fact. Adam Schefter doesn't come out and just say, oh yeah, JPP lost a finger today. He's not just going to make that up. He's going to have some solid source. He didn't have to necessarily send out the picture of what it was, of the actual medical records themselves. So in that respect, I think he might have crossed the line. But the story was going to come out. He had the scoop, and he had a very good source, as in the medical records. The only thing I have a question of is whether or not you actually take a picture of the medical records and send them out. But he should have broken the story, maybe just without the picture.
Yeah, because it's like I always tend to think, I'm like, isn't that HIPAA?
Yeah, that was my first thought, was it was HIPAA, but at the same time, if anybody goes, you're releasing my medical records, you blew your hand up with a firework! You don't get to complain!
Yeah, true, sort of like your argument is invalid. Exactly. All right, and we will start since with this division, since Patrick, this is your division, this is your team. So I'm sort of curious what you think that the Eagles and all of the rest of the crazy teams are going to do for the 2015 season.
Oh well, with my Philadelphia Eagles, I think I might be a little bit biased, but I do think that they have a deep team given how well they played in the preseason, even though it is the preseason and teams probably dog it. I think 14-2 record is right around where they're going to sit. They're going to do 5-1 in division. I think I have Dallas taking a step back, given that their running back position that was so important went and shipped himself over to Philadelphia. They're going to downgrade down to 9-7, so that 3-3 in division. Giants tail in behind them, 7-9, 3-3 again. I think that they're not going to be able to get anything going on defense and offense. They could be a powerhouse, but still, they need defense. Washington is going to round it out, and they're going to soak in their sorrow with a 4-12 record, 1-5 in division, and RG3 is going to be crying on the bench. I feel sorry for him, but I guess that's just what his future is going to look like.
Flying?
I've got the Eagles winning the division, not quite as high of a record as Patrick had. I've got them at 11-5. I think the Cowboys do take a step back. The Giants are still a solid team, if not a good team. Eli actually had a pretty good season as long as fantasy goes. He had a lot of interceptions, as he always does, but he did have a pretty good year. Getting Cruz back will help their offense. I've got the Eagles, though, winning at 11-5. The Cowboys at 10-6. I think the strength of their running backs last year was that offensive line. I think DeMarco Murray's a great running back. He's going to do well in Philadelphia, but I think a lot of the big outbursts you saw from his production was because that offensive line is so deep. I've got them at 10-6. I've got the Giants at 7-9 as well. I just think that their defense isn't going to be there. Any injuries to their offense is going to diminish them in a greater way than some other teams. And I think the Redskins are probably the biggest letdown in the NFL in several years with everything they gave up to get RG3 just to bench him. And nonetheless, bench him and then sell tickets to the Dolphins game week 1 with his picture on it. I think they are the number 1 overall pick at 2-14, and they might be lucky to get to that record. They're going to be pretty awful. But definitely the Eagles are the class of that division, and it doesn't seem like that's a division that repeats too often. It seems to want to bounce between teams, just like the AFC or the NFC South did until this year, where it's the first time they had a back-to-back winner in the Panthers.
Yeah, and I'll definitely have to agree with that with the Eagles, just with how scary their offense is, especially DeMarco Murray. I'm going to agree because he's going to be on a mission after everything that sort of went down in Dallas. So I've got the Eagles first place, 13-3. I just think they're going to steamroller most of the NFL. Dallas Cowboys going to be in 500, 8-8. I know they're going to try to repeat, but anytime they came that close to the Super Bowl, it's just got to be such a emotion downer. Then you have, of course, Giants and all of that, 7-9. Of course, the dumpster fire of the division, the Washington Redskins. I'm actually giving them 4 wins, so I guess compared to y'all, I'm being charitable.
Yeah,
I have a question from the NFC East, and I want a one-word answer, and I want to start with Joel. Did Dez catch it?
I'm gonna
one-word answer.
Yes.
Patrick.
yes.
I guess I'm the only one that didn't think so, but
Well,
I was rooting for the Packers, so maybe that's just how I wanted to see it.
well,
I was surely rooting for the Packers, but I mean, I haven't seen the picture in a long time or the clip or whatever. But I think the general consensus in my mind was, yeah, I think he did catch it.
And I'm going to agree with Patrick because my whole thing was the wording. I mean, the whole wording of this, and with how many words they had to change, it's just absolutely ridiculous that you can have all these extra rules on what is a catch and what isn't a catch. Because I wasn't rooting for the Packers. I was actually rooting for Romo to finally break the curse and get all the way there. And something happened, but it wasn't his fault. So it was like that. But I tend to think he caught it, and so time to sort of go rapid fire here. So we set a goal to do a podcast that would be under 17 hours, and we want to keep the goal here. So let's kick it into warp gear as we move on to the NFC South, my division, as I tend to have everyone all clumped together 9, 8, 6, and 5 respectively. That would be Panthers, Buccaneers, Saints, and Falcons. Flying.
I've got the Panthers running again at 9-7. The Saints 8-8, the Falcons at 6-10. The Bucks still bring up the rear at 3-13. I think they're still a long way off. The Panthers are really the only team that's got anything solid besides Drew Brees, and even then they've gotten rid of Kenny Stills and Jimmy Graham. They're going to take a step back on offense this year.
Patrick?
So far as my predictions, I have New Orleans sitting at 8-8, which I mean that's around where they'll be sitting, give or take a win or two. I think they'll go 6-0 in division. I think that division is a little bit of a cakewalk for the man that is Drew Brees. He always seems to come back. Coming in second place, I think I have Tampa Bay going 7-9, 2-4 in division. But I think Jameis Winston, when he gets comfortable, I think throwing to two towers and receivers and having Doug Martin as a running back, and I don't think that their O-line is going to do that bad either, maybe middle of the pack so far as the league. I think they can easily make it to 7 wins. Carolina, I'm just not sold in anything about their team. Maybe at best I'm sold at Cam Newton, but 6-10, that injury to Kelvin Benjamin is going to plague their season. And Atlanta is going to come in at 4-12. Matt Ryan is in a sad predicament with this team. I just don't think that they're the kind of team that's going to highlight the roster that they have, the skills that they have, and I just think it's going to be dumpster fire.
Borrowing from Ryan, quick one-word answer for both you and Flyin. Does Matt Ryan ever win a Super Bowl? I say no.
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 All right, that's what I kind of thought you all would say. All right, as we move on to the North, I've got Packers 14 wins, Lions 11, Vikings 8, and Bears 7. We'll go Patrick and Ryan.
I have Green Bay being the strong arm in the division, 12-4. They're always so consistent, regardless of how their defense plays. I always think that they underperform. But I think Minnesota is going to somehow squeak into the playoffs at 7-9. I think Teddy Bridgewater is an up-and-coming quarterback. I think their line will certainly look out for him. AP is going to come back like a monster, and I just think that their defense might click and somehow get them to that 7-win mark and somehow in the playoffs. Detroit is going to be a letdown yet again because I feel like their offensive contributions are just underutilized. 6-10 is probably the record. Chicago is going to come in at 5-11, and I'm not sold on John Fox at all. It's just this red flag that I have on him. I don't think he's the kind of coach that inspires a team and rallies them to win.
Yeah, I've got the Packers winning the division at 13-3. Aaron Rodgers is always going to get that team into place to win. They're just hands down the class of the division, if not the NFC in general. I've got the Lions at 9-7. They are going to take a little bit of a step back. And the NFC, I think, is pretty deep up top, so they're not going to get in. I've got the Vikings taking a step forward, but not a big enough one, 8-8. I've got the Bears at 5-11. It has nothing to do with Fox. It has nothing to do with Alshon Jeffrey, Forte. It's all about Cutler. I just can't trust him. I can't trust him to not lose enough games to put this team in a bad spot. That defense is still coming back from what it used to be. They took a big step back, so I don't think they're going to be much of anything. 5-11, I think, is optimistic.
True that.
Would that be the song you hear? The Bears still suck. Bum, bum.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Definitely as we move on to the West, with the Seahawks, I have 11-5. I just don't see them unstoppable, even with Russell Wilson and all this super water and nano bubbles. Arizona Cardinals 6-10, Rams 5-11. San Francisco 49ers, the dumpster fire, especially with the offseason they've had, where I think about half the team quit. And we'll start, I think, with Flying and then go to Patrick.
Yeah, it was roughly half the team quit on the Niners. That's why they're fourth for me, 3-13, and that might be optimistic. The Seahawks back-to-back Super Bowls, they're still going to be around. I've never been a big believer in Russell Wilson as an elite or great quarterback. It's more the team he is on is so good. He's never had to go out and win a game, and as long as he's not having to win a game, he keeps them in it. He does make the good plays when he has to make the good plays. So he's a good enough quarterback for that team. You put him on a team like Miami or even a Cincinnati where he might have to go out and win. Not convinced he can do it, but Seattle, he's going to be great. 3-13 or 13-3 for them. Arizona, I think, still going to be good. If Palmer can stay healthy, they're a playoff team in 11-5. The Rams are going to take a big step in the right direction right before they go to LA, and they'll be 9-7.
Patrick?
I think we all have a consensus on where Seattle's going to sit in this division. I have them at 13-3. They're just a powerhouse, and having Fred Jackson complement Marshawn Lynch, I mean, it doesn't matter who's throwing the football. It could be that dude who won the Super Bowl for Tampa Bay. I completely forgot his name. Brad Johnson, yeah. See? But Russell Wilson, I mean, that's a good enough compliment for the two of them, and I just think that they'll walk to that division top spot. Arizona is going to be coming in second solely based off of their defense. I just think that their defense has what it takes to be a playoff team, but not with this offense. Not sold on Carson Palmer. I just think that he's not the quarterback for this team, not Bruce Arians' quarterback in any parallel universe whatsoever. So with the third spot, I see San Francisco sitting at a tie with Arizona, 7-9. I just think that athletically they have a decent roster of playmakers, but they just don't have enough to go and make the playoffs. 6-10 is going to be the record that St. Louis owns. I think Nick Foles is a decent quarterback, but he's not good enough to go and dig St. Louis out of the trenches, and I just think that their offense is not tailored for them.
All right, and since we don't have time to break down every round of the playoffs, and also Ryan, do we want to do final thoughts or? Because I want to have everyone give who wins and who's in the playoffs, who's in the Super Bowl, and who wins the Super Bowl, and then maybe do final thoughts. And Patrick, just to let you know what final thoughts are, just maybe a minute, maybe something that's kind of on your mind, sports related, or maybe not even sports related, that just sort of maybe kind of want to go on a mini rant about.
Okay.
All right,
yeah.
so let's do with my Super Bowl. I've got without scores. I've got the Cowboys and the Colts in the Super Bowl, and yes, I actually have the Cowboys finally winning again. I'm sure that will bring me a couple of hate mails here and there. And so, Patrick, who's in your Super Bowl and who wins it?
In my Super Bowl, I've got San Diego and Seattle, and I actually have Seattle going over San Diego.
Nice.
Just think that they have what it takes.
Flying?
I've got Green Bay and the Colts. I think this is the year the Colts break through. I think the playoffs just break in a way that allows the Colts and the Dolphins to actually run through it. But I've got the Packers just destroying the Colts in the Super Bowl. They're not on the same level.
So the Colts inflate their footballs now?
Something like that.
All right, so we've got that. And now final thoughts. We'll let Fly-In. We'll go ahead and let you start it. So,
my final thought, and it just occurred to me this is it because I wasn't planning on a final thought today.
Okay, sorry.
And I just want a yes answer if you've seen it. The video of the two high school football players hitting the referee.
Yes.
Gruesome.
That was probably one of the worst videos I've seen in a very long time. And as somebody who's grown up playing sports, that's never even crossed my mind. It's not something I would ever have considered to do over a bad call. Yeah, maybe a mouth off. Yeah, maybe, you do something. But to outright go and blindside the guy twice in the same play, it's really disgusting act. And I know those kids have been suspended from school, let alone the football team. There's a lot of people saying they should be brought up on criminal charges, which the refs is considering. Sent to jail. Exactly. I mean, all your evidence is right there. You went out of your way. Anybody who sees that video goes, that was intentional. It's not like it was a pick play where, okay, you lay the shoulder into the guy. Oops, you were in the way. Sorry, you can play it off. You charged him, and then the other guy dove into him. It's absolutely vile. It's disturbing. It's evil. And the real question is whether or not the coaching staff had anything to do with it. Because if the coach of a high school team is telling their kids, hey, it was a bad call. You make it right. That's disgusting. It's despicable. And it's something that coach should not be allowed to be coaching if that's the case. Those kids should be barred from all the sports, not just football. Teach them a real lesson. If they're not put in jail, teach them a real lesson they're going to feel. No football, no basketball, no baseball, no key club, no environmental club, no whatever they want to do in high school as an extracurricular. Keep them out of it. Serves them right to attack somebody. That's what they did. They attacked an unarmed person, an unprotected person, while they're in full battle gear, essentially. It's disturbing. They should be locked up, kicked off the team. Whatever punishment they have, I'm all for it, short of the electric chair, really.
Outside of football, that's basically assault.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You look at it, it's assault. Just because they're on a football field, it doesn't negate it, and I hope the ref does press charges. I really do.
Amen. Patrick?
Yeah, my final thoughts are going to piggyback off of yours. So far, as those kids, I mean, they were completely out of line by doing that, and I actually am going to veer against popular opinion, and I don't think that the coaches should be held accountable for what a other party does, for what those two kids did. It seems like they didn't have a grip on their team. I don't think any outstanding punishment should come to the coaches, but I do think that the school board should overview what they're doing in that department and maybe possibly fire them. But I don't think that they should have any charges against them. With the kids, depending on the age, I guess they could definitely see charges. They were out of line by doing that, and I think that they should not be able to do really anything. So far as the teammates that did play with their heart and play with a clear conscience, I don't think that they should be punished, and I don't think that they should have their season cut short due to what two of their teammates did. And I heard that there are a few other penalties during the game too about other players, and I think that they should have their seasons looked at as well. But the other kids, I think they should be able to play.
Yeah, because it's like I just can't imagine at all that you would have a coach saying, like, as you said, Ryan, make it right if there's something at all, especially when I believe one of the things in sports you're attempting to teach is sportsmanship. I mean, I know you have a win at all costs mentality, but that cost is too high, and you want to win the game, but you're going to basically physically attack somebody for a ref. That, I mean, I know we've all had moments, whether in baseball or football or any sport, when you have a strike ball call that you disagree with, or there's a slide into safe and the umpire says they're out but they were, and you disagree with all that, and you've had Major League Baseball players like maybe bump up against an umpire, but in recent memory, in the recent era, I can't ever remember seeing a baseball player slug an umpire or physically run into him. This is not a good thing for kids at that age to be doing at all, and I just hope they don't ever play sports again. I'll have to agree with both of you. Absolutely ridiculous.
And just, you had mentioned there were some other incidents in that game. It sounds to me, from what I've heard, it was one of those, like in a baseball game, once the first couple people are rung up, you step a toe out of line and you're gone too. So I don't know if the rest of the kids really went out of line. I personally think it was two rogue kids who went in the huddle and said, we're going to get this guy. The coach had nothing to do with it. And I heard a good quote from Merrill Hodge. The coach or a parent has total power, but when they go inside the lines or when they go out of the house as a child, you lose all control. And if they had no control of the situation, like you said, the coaches can't be held too accountable. Maybe you slap them on the wrist with some kind of little suspension by the school. But as far as criminal charges, loss of a job, if they had nothing to do with it and the kids went and did this rogue, it sucks, but there's nothing the coaches could have done to prevent it. So they didn't know what was going on.
I mean, when you wonder when you turn on the news and you see all the insanity that's going on. When you turn on high school football and you see this stuff going on at the high school level, and just everything, all the other news that I'm sure all of you have seen this week, and it is just like at some point, just the sanity. I think sanity just needs to be restored because the entire world has gone insane.
Mm-hmm.
And do we have any generic sponsors today?
Well, we have your final thoughts still.
Oh, oh
So
well.
we'll let you get to those first. As far as generic sponsors, I can look around and see some things.
Oh, and let Patrick know because I don't know if I've told you how we came up with generic sponsors. Sorry for everyone listening. Going, well, why are we explaining this? But
There are probably people that listen to this that don't understand how this came about, so it's fine.
okay, so go ahead with the short symposium.
Well, every great show has corporate sponsors, and of course we don't. But we wanted to feel like we did, so we made sponsors, but we can't say, hey, we were sponsored by this company and that company, because it's not true, and if anybody ever heard, not that I think they would, they could get,
legal
they
action.
could get legally pissy, and I don't think they would, but just to, CYA kind of thing, we come up with generic sponsors. So instead of being, soda brand that I don't want to say, it's cola. Just it's a lame way to have sponsors, but not have sponsors because we're weird.
We don't want to be the grocery store that Michael Jordan sued for improperly using his likeness in their ad campaign.
Right.
I think a couple $1 million is not within the sports shuffled budget.
Yeah.
But my final thoughts. Just kind of why is there a need for sports? Just because of all of the insane news, the insanity. I mentioned it to get serious this week with everything. Of course, all of the prayers out to all of the families of the police officers affected recently with all of the shootings going on. That you turn on the news, you open the internet, it's right there in front of you. All of a sudden, like last week, I remember it was like Wednesday or Thursday, then all of a sudden I'm going, why is a TV station in Virginia trending? Why is it WBGJ? Why? And then all of a sudden, I looked at why in the tweet, and you saw a TV news crew executed on live TV, and it turns out it was a former co-worker, and the station manager had to call the police to come to the station to escort him out, and then they had to have a police officer the whole next week guard the police station against him, and he was actually told to go get help and never did. And it's just that all of a sudden, it's videos like that, and you wonder, why do you need sports? Why do we need entertainment? Just sometimes you need something to help turn the brain off. You just need that place, that oasis. And so even when you tend to have seasons like this, kind of bringing the seriousness back to sports, why you tend to need seasons even like this when you're a Rays fan and it's playoffs have no hope. If that's the worst thing going on, is that your team isn't going to get to the playoffs, maybe it's not so bad. And those are my final thoughts.
Well said. I think all of us can echo the sentiments on the police officers and just the general violence going on in this country, which unfortunately has a lot of racial undertones that I don't want to get into in something like this. And I hope that we take the example of Charleston, where it's more forgiveness and understanding that, hey, you need help, and we're not the ones to judge you, as opposed to what you saw in Ferguson and Baltimore, where it divides. And it was really impressive seeing the support come out of Charleston when the church was shot, and how and one of the people who was killed in that had a son who was a college baseball player, and ESPN did this big E60 story on this, and he was basically the one that said, he started I forgive him. I understand he's got problems. And it was a good example to set, and it rallied the entire community. There was no violence. There was nothing. It was all peaceful. It was handled the right way. So we need to get back to that. You understand that even if we have racial, gender, orientation of sexuality, any religious, any kind of differences, that we are still one people. We need to function as a society to be what we're supposed to be productive. Because when you see tragedies, people in their 20s doing a news report. One was, I believe, engaged. One was set to be married here in a couple days or a couple weeks.
Yeah, the other person was in the studio seeing it happen live.
Yeah, I saw the video, and I can't imagine being on the end of the person who was. I mean, imagine being the person who was giving being interviewed at that time as well. You just watched it, and he apparently walked away fine. So I mean, there's a whole lot of horror stories to it, and fortunately, it's not as common as it could be. And hopefully, that the reactions that we're seeing more and more become more and more peaceful and understanding, and hoping for improvement, not division and anger. And unfortunately, there are groups out there that are trying to divide. And hopefully they do not win in this argument, because it's a very, very dark problem that could get worse. And I think people just need to be united as one person, not as, well, I'm this, I'm that. It's one thing when we all go, like, we have 3 different fanhoods right here: Philly, Tampa, and Miami for football. It's one thing to be divided on something that's silly, because it's nothing that anybody's going to take too seriously to the point it goes to this. But when you have divides that are so deep, and it's mostly just perception, there's really not a big difference between black, white, Hispanic, Christian, Muslim, all that. It's all the same. So we just need to come together, be one people, one mind, one voice, and go back and go in the right direction.
Amen. Anything else you want to add, Patrick? Or?
Well, I just think, what we need is a unification in the country rather than division, and I think we need some senior level leadership in this country that echoes that rather than echoes the division. That's about it.
All right, so thank you guys both for staying through the pre-show, the actual show, and thank you for all your input. You guys did awesome. It was fun. Hope all of you on the listening end are enjoying this as much as we enjoyed doing this. And so, for yours truly, the Tampa Motor Mouth, as well, along with
Flying Ryan Gilchrist, wishing you guys a happy NFL first week and a happy season.
And Mr. Patrick Grana, I also wish that you guys enjoy all the opening games, and it's going to be a fun season.
All right, and I'll echo that. And much like Ryan Seacrest, it's we're out. See you all later. Ciao for now, and all that good stuff.